Hello and welcome back to another edition of The Big Stage. It is finally here, Euro 2020, and in this episode we're going to be going in depth into a few of the biggest games of the opening round. We're going to take a heavy look at the home nations fixtures as well as some other standout events as well. I'm going to go deeper into some of those. And as always, I'm joined by my guests, Wayne Bridge and Rory Jennings. Now, before we get into the detailed chat around the specific games, lads, I want to bring up one of the highlights of the week. Now, very much pun intended. Phil Foden, Wayne, we've got him down as player of the tournament. That hairstyle, what do you make of it?
He's got some serious balls or guts or confidence, whatever you want to call it. But like I said, fair play. Do you know what I mean? He's such a young kid. It's big to go and do that though. Come on, I put him down for player of the tournament, and he's acting like he could get it coming out there with a Gazza haircut.
Was it Gazza? I thought it was Yaz. I thought he was going for
Yaz. Now, Rory, you've got the most flowing locks, I have to say. Rory, you've got the flowing locks of our show. I mean, what do you make of it? Do you think he's going to channel Gazza and give us one of those standout performances?
Yeah, I like it. I like it because I think you need that. There's an element of confidence, and I think some would perceive it to be arrogance involved in doing something like that. But I actually think that you need that. You need to have that level of ego in order to go to the very top. And now I'm totally on board as well, by the way. He's going to channel Gazza. I'm waiting for him to ping one in past Andy Gorham.
I love it. Do you know, I'm right. I said I've put him down for player of the tournament, and he's acting like he's going to get it already. I love it. I do love it.
Now, Wayne, one thing I do want to ask you about this. As a defender, if you come up against a player that looks like that, I mean, does that give you a bit of extra motivation to maybe go in a bit harder into a challenge with him?
I think back in the day, maybe, but you don't get away with it as much now. Do you know what? No matter what hairstyle he's wearing, you're coming up against Phil Foden. You're going to have to be on your toes, and you're going to want to let him know that he's in for a tough day and get stuck in, no matter what hair he's got.
Well, enough chat about hair. Let's get into it and start looking at the games involving the home nations. We're going to start off with England. So, of course, England's opening game is against Croatia in Group D. It looks like on paper this should be the most difficult game for England in the group. Of course, getting knocked out by Croatia in the semi-final back in 2018. Now, question for you, Wayne. I mean, how much will retribution be on the players' minds thinking back to 2018?
I don't think it'd be on their mind too much, to be honest. Obviously, they hear about it because everyone will talk about it. But I just think they just go about their business. You know, Croatia, they're a good team. They've got good players. So it's not going to be easy. I think it's going to be fairly tight to start off. But all the games they played previously have been fairly tight. I think from what I remember, they've always been within one goal. So it is going to be a close game. But I still fancy us to do it.
Now, Rory, you were actually there, right, for the semi-final back in 2018. I mean, how have you seen England evolve since then and change?
Oh, Joe, that's a terrible question to ask because I'm trying to focus on the positive here, and I mean, since it feels to me like it's actually gone downhill ever since. Like the euphoria involved in getting to that final was amazing, wasn't it? When Kieran Trippier scored that beautiful goal, I was convinced that we were going to make it. At the time, it felt like Southgate was the second coming. Since then, however, it has shifted. So I would say that we need to start this tournament on the front foot. We need to get a victory because I still feel like there's a bit of a hangover from some fairly uninspiring performances. You know, the way that we lost in that Nations League tournament wasn't exactly ideal. Combine that, I was at Middlesbrough recently and for the England-Romania game. That felt flat, really flat, totally devoid of any ideas. So we need to start this game against Croatia, 100 miles an hour, get a win under our belt, galvanise the nation, and we'll be fine.
Now, a little point on that. England have actually never won an opening game at a European Championship in 9 attempts, and also Croatia
so it's
are unbeaten.
It's due, Joe. It's due.
There you go. That's the positive spin.
But I mean, it's happening. Wayne, it's happening. It's coming home. It's happening.
Yeah, Wayne, looking at this bunch of players, though, I mean, who do you think can handle the pressure?
I look at them and I think most of them, to be honest, they look like they've got a bit about them with their attitude, like the confidence and everything. And they're playing in big teams, in big games. So for me, I think they'll all be more than capable. And I've watched some of the training on TV and stuff. Everyone looks like they're having fun. Everyone looks like they're enjoying it. I think they'll be perfectly fine, to be honest. I think they'll handle it very, very well.
Now, I mean, after the warm-up game, we're still not 100% sure on who's actually going to start. But another recurring question that we get as well, so one from James Olcott for you, Wayne, as well. Who is going to be your starting left back? I think you said it already, but I mean, has your mind been changed at all?
Yeah. Do you know what? It hasn't. I think no matter what formation you play, whether it's wing backs or just playing with a full-back, it has to be Shaw. Like I said, Chilwell has done well this season, so you can't take that away from him. But again, Shaw for me has been fantastic. I think he's very powerful. So for me, it will be Shaw, but I don't know if he's going to go that way.
Now, Rory, you touched on you were at the friendly with Romania. I mean, you looked at Ward-Prowse and you bigged him up. I mean, how disappointed were you that he didn't make the final squad?
Well, to me, it makes absolutely no sense. Right. It almost feels like a cheat code, doesn't it? Because what you've got in Jack Grealish, right? You've got the geezer who is the most fouled man in football, loves winning free kicks. In James Ward-Prowse, you've got the expert delivery, like guaranteed expert delivery. So you've got the fouled fella, the fella that can whip it in. 2 and 2 makes a Christmas cake for me. I can't see how you don't put those two together and come up with something special. We rely on set pieces. Foolish decision.
I'm obviously coming from Southampton area. I'm in a group of Southampton fans. So all my friends are Southampton fans, and they sent me over the stat page of midfielders that are going. And if you look at his stats, I know stats doesn't necessarily win you games, but goals, free kicks, goals and free kicks, his stats are amazing. So I'm a bit shocked he hasn't gone, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a big surprise, of course. But I mean, let's move on to our actual predictions for the game. Wayne, I think you touched on it already a little bit, that this one will be a pretty close one. But your best bet for the round is actually in this game. So what do you reckon?
Well, I've gone to win by one because I think they're always close games. And, like you said, England haven't always started off tournaments that well. But I really fancy us this year. So I think it's going to be tight to begin with. And I still fancy us to nick it. I have so much belief in this team, and I'm loving them. But I think it's going to be very cagey to begin with. But I fancy us to come out second half and definitely nick a goal.
Yeah, and how about you, Rory? How's your predictions for this one?
I just think we need to win, Joe. I don't think there's any room for any other result. I don't think that we can be going into that Scotland game without a victory under our belt. We have to win.
Absolutely. Now, we did actually put...
Do you know what really put me off there?
Sorry, mate.
Wayne, are you feeling that a win is me being what's
I know what you want. No. I think we will win, but it was like you just... I could see how much hope there is in you, just hoping.
But we can't. Do you know what? I feel like this game in particular, we need to win. Like, I think that our entire tournament aspirations are almost dependent on a victory on this day. After what happened last week at Middlesbrough, those 2 really flat games, I think we need a victory to get people believing again.
I think I really hope we don't play with 2 defensive midfielders. That's what I really hope we don't do. I want us to go into this tournament and just go for it, be sensible, go for it. Even if Rice is defending one and Mount plays with him and you give him a bit of freedom to go forward. I just hope we really go for it and we don't sit back too much.
Now, with Bet365's Bet Builder, we've actually compiled a bet for this game. It's something you can do. You can actually pick multiple markets and put them all together. So we've gone with Wayne's suggestion of most goals happening in the second half. Also, Rory picked out Harry Kane to get on the score sheet. And I am going for England to win, but also maybe a cagey affair, so England to win to 0. I think we will be solid enough at the back against Croatia. And that is a 15-2 shout with Bet365. Now, for more information on the Bet Builder and for inspiration as well on how to use it even more, then head on over to bettingexpert.com. Now, moving on to the other game in Group D, of course, Scotland against the Czech Republic. Here, the bookies are actually kind of split in terms of the outcomes. It looks like the odds are pretty much even for each outcome. I mean, here, lads, what are we thinking for Scotland's chances? I'll start with you, Rory.
I actually think Scotland will win this game. I think that's going to put huge amounts of pressure on England because Scotland could be going into the game against England top of the group with the potential of knocking England out of the tournament. England could end up going out to Scotland before we even play our third game. That is the jeopardy that is at stake here. I think Scotland are decent enough and can beat the Czech Republic, but this is why I'm so desperate for England to get a win.
Now, we did actually have a question come in regarding one of the key players for Scotland. So, Wayne, in your view, Andy Robertson, I mean, where is he amongst the chat for best left-backs in the world? He obviously had a great season for Liverpool a couple of years ago, but where do you rank him?
He's a great player, great see. They've got great fullbacks. Scotland, great fullbacks, to be honest, with Tierney at Arsenal. But he is very good. I was going to say reminds me of myself, but that would be a stupid thing because everyone will say he's better than me. But he's powerful. He is quick. He gets up and down well. I love him as a fullback. We had a question the other week that there's not many fullbacks like that around, very top class fullbacks around at the moment. And he is up there. He is definitely up there.
I mean, for you, obviously, yeah, you're a bit biased with regards to left backs, but how influential can a left back be in the success of a team?
Maybe if I played more games, England might have gone a bit further. Do you know what I mean? I think in the way the game is played at the moment, what it's like. Left backs, they can be very attacking, so they can be influential. If they're getting forward at the right times and get putting balls into the box, they can be very, very, very important. But that's when I look at Luke Shaw. If he has a good game and he's bombing forward and attacking, he can create. He could nick a goal and he could get an assist. So for me, that fullbacks can be very important, depending on how your team sets up, because there obviously can be defensive fullbacks as well.
Yeah. Now, one thing I did actually want to ask you, Wayne, as well, is how much players actually look at other teams' matches, like in preparation. Let's say you're an England player now watching this Scotland game. Would you be taking notes or anything like that? I mean, how much would you be paying attention to the other teams in the group?
Look, I don't think you'll be taking notes. You'll be watching, you'll be enjoying the game, and you'll get all the feedback you need from the games from the analysis that you have in camp. They'll break the game down for you and how they play. You'll just be enjoying the games, to be honest.
I guess that's the same for you, Rory, as a fan as well, watching on, right?
Yes, I think that at this stage in the tournament, it's far too early to be looking at other teams, potentially hoping that other teams do you a favour. Like, obviously, I hope that the Scotland game finishes in a draw. That's a better result for England. But England have their own destiny in their own hands, and it would be slightly defeatist to be already relying on someone else to do us a favour this early in the tournament.
Well, let's hope it doesn't go that way. Now, it's actually one of our betting expert top tipsters, Nieda, is actually predicting a draw in this one. Now, he is someone that's racked up over 6,000 units of profit on his betting expert profile, so definitely one to listen to. But we're going to move on now to the other home nation involved, of course, Wales. Now, it looks like they could potentially be a bit of a one-man team. I think it might be fair to say. But guys, what do you think about Gareth Bale? Wayne, start with you.
Look, he's a great player. He is made for the big stage, really. It could be his last tournament. We touched on Ronaldo being maybe his last tournament, and those big players just step up sometimes on the big stage. And I think Wales has quite a good team spirit between the lads. They're always the underdogs. They've got a good spirit. He's going to be massively important. He is going to have to perform, and we've seen it. He can perform on the big stage, so he's more than capable of, scoring a few goals. And we've seen Wales. They've gone further than what anyone thought they would go to before with their team spirit and him in the team. So there's a possibility. There is a possibility. I tip them to get out of the group stage. So I think that they'd do okay, but I'm not expecting them to go too far.
I mean, Rory, over to you. Do you think they have any chance of recreating what they did in 2016?
No, I don't think they'll go that far. I mean, they can't do that again. I mean, that moment, that trick before the goal, when it took them into the semi-final, when even the camera went wrong, didn't it? Just before that quick turn in the penalty box, even the camera didn't see it coming. So that was amazing. But I don't think that they're going to be able to do that. I was at the England-Wales game that took place in Lens in that tournament when England scored in the last minute. It was brilliant. But I know they went a long way in the tournament. I know they went a lot further than England. But I watched them play. That they were They weren't a good team. They really weren't a good team.
No, no.
And
It was their spirit.
I think that it was their spirit, and they had, certain players were brilliant. Aaron Ramsey's a very good player. Gareth Bale was unplayable that tournament. He scored a goal against England from about 40 yards. It's ridiculous. But look, the groups have been fairly kind to them. I think that their group, they can potentially get out of it, but actually, what am I talking about? They can't get out of their group. I'm trying to be as positive as possible because I feel a bit bad for saying they're an average team in France.
They need to win,
you know.
really, don't they? They need to win this game if they've got any chance of getting through. They need to win it. Is it Italy and Turkey?
Italy, Turkey.
Right.
I mean, people are talking about Turkey as potential winners.
Yeah.
Italy are definitely potential winners. The only way that they have the chance of getting out of the group is if they win this game against Switzerland, and even then, they'll be like the third place team to go through.
Yeah.
I mean, this actually leads us nicely on to the other game in Group A, of course. Yeah, the opener. So Turkey against Italy. Now here, Italy are the big favourites to win this one. But maybe just, Wayne, touch on Italy before there. I mean, how do you see them set up? Do you think they're going to be a really strong defensive unit? And how far can that take them in the tournament?
Well, they're definitely a decent team. They are definitely a half-decent team. It's definitely, like you said, it's not going to be easy. But for me, Italy just have gone about their business so well. But if you were going to pick the two teams to qualify from that group, I think you definitely pick Turkey because they're a half-decent team. But I don't see how much further they go past the group stages for me personally when I look at the other teams. But that they are half-decent. And they will give Italy a game, but I expect Italy to come out on top because I think they've been fantastic.
Yeah, Rory, you've got a couple of Italy players back in your combined 11 we had in the previous episode. I mean, are you still standing by that? You still think they've got some of those key individuals that can shine at the tournament?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Locatelli's a really exciting young player, somebody to watch. Their midfield is brilliant. That's what I think it comes down to. When you think about who's available for them in the midfield, Verratti's one of the best in the world. He's not quite for me. He doesn't do the things I want from a midfielder. But Jorginho is also a very good player. I feel like Immobile gets a lot of stick because I know that he doesn't turn it on internationally. He's a very good player for his club, but doesn't quite bring that form to the international team. But he's still a really good player. And if it clicks for him, there's no reason why they don't do well. Roberto Mancini's a class act, and they haven't lost for, well, but I mean, since they lost, I've got married and had a baby. So, they're decent.
Nice. And also, I mean, the last 8 games, they've also kept a clean sheet in those 8 games as well. So it's actually coming up to my best bet of the round is for Italy to win this 1-0. Get that evens at Paddy Power. Now, we do actually have a contradicting view from one of our betting expert tipsters, though. Our tipster, Nieda, who is highly ranked on Betting Expert, is actually going for Turkey or the draw in this one. So, yeah, he is the one with the proven track record in terms of betting. So we'll see how that pans out. We'll review in the next episode. But now moving on, I want to pick out Rory's best bet as well. So it's not actually in the game between Spain and Sweden. We're going to get to that one in a second. But Rory, your best bet for the round involves a Scandinavian team. You've picked up Sweden in the past on this show. But who are you going for as your best bet in the first round of fixtures?
I've gone for Denmark. I think Denmark look really good on paper, at least. And I think that they will win their first game. I think you could be a little bit more confident about it as well. I think we can go Denmark -1.
Obviously, that's a 6-4 shot, as you can see on screen at Betfair. So, yeah, pretty good, solid shout. We don't know a lot about Finland. Well, at least me personally. I know a lot of people watching football are out there. But I had a thought for you, Wayne. I mean, how do you prepare for those teams that maybe you don't know a lot about? If you're not following them like in their club level or what have you, I mean, how do you prepare as a player for those kinds of games?
Look, on the big stage, you're always going to be prepared. The analysis teams that you have, there's so much attention to detail that you'll know everything you need to know about every player. They'll have something to tell you about the player you come up against, how the team's going to play, and you just prepare. For me, I would prepare the same for whatever game it is. You shouldn't prepare any different. You should always be ready. Always be ready. The same to play not exactly the same. You can change your game a little, but always be up for it. You shouldn't need to be G'd up for a game. You should always be up for it, no matter what opponent you're coming up against.
I think that's fair enough. Good insight there. Now we are going to move on to that game between Spain and Sweden. We did bring up the graphic. We teased it a little bit. Now I know, Rory, you're fancying quite a few of the Swedes, although you did have a bit of a setback with regards to your dark horse for young player of the tournament this week.
Why? What's happened to my dark horse? What's happened?
He got tested positive for COVID.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, I need to change that immediately then. Can I make it Alexander Isaac?
You can indeed, yeah.
I'll go.
I thought that's who you made it anyway. I did.
Yeah, that's who. I mean, I think I gave a gentle homage to Isaac before.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Elsewhere, but now let's just stick. We'll stick with Isaac. And yeah, look, I think Sweden are good, aren't they? Sweden look lively. So yeah, Alexander Isaac. I think he calls himself the Robin to Ibrahimovic's Batman, doesn't he? So you've got it's a good duo to have up front.
I mean, saying that, Zlatan's of course ruled out for injury as well. Delboy and Rodders, yeah. But obviously Zlatan's out as well. So I mean, Wayne, question for you. I mean, how does the whole squad get impacted when those key players are ruled out either through injury or suspension, or how does that affect the team?
Well, it affects the team selection. You like to think they've got big enough squads that everyone believes in what other player is going to come in and fill their boots, to be honest. I think you have to believe in each other, because if you don't, it's going to affect team morale and affect the performance. I think you just believe in each other. And I think with, it's, like I said, it's such a big tournament. It's the best of the best, really, the best of the best players around. So I think everyone will be believing in their own ability. You just hope that there's trust in each other when someone does drop out. As I think, it probably affects. I'd probably say it affects the fans a little bit more. I think the fans probably, back in the day, if Wayne Rooney wasn't playing, the fans would be going around all nervous. Oh, what are we going to do? And things like that. But I think as a team, you just believe in each other and you encourage each other and you put your trust in each other.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. But the prediction here from the betting expert community is actually Spain -1.25. Now, if you're not sure about how quarter betting works, I can just quickly explain it. Basically, with that bet, you're backing both Spain -1 and Spain -1.5. So that actually splits your bets into two. So Spain have to win by 2 clear goals for that bet to be a winner. If they win by 1, you'll get half of your stake back. But now, moving on to probably the juiciest fixture of the opening round of fixtures, it is France against Germany. Now, this one could be good enough to be a final potentially in tournaments gone by. So, Wayne, just a question for you. I mean, how would these players prepare for such a formidable opponent on both sides?
Oh, it's just the massive game, isn't it? I really fancy France just because when I look at it's not just their team, it's their squad. It's a fantastic squad. I've already tipped them to go all the way. So for me, I'm picking France all day long. Look, Germany, they're good and they always seem to do well in tournaments. And I don't know if it's that I'm going with my heart that it will be France because of how much sad times we've seen against Germany. So I'm really hoping that France do win. Mm-hmm. But for me, I'm picking France all day long. I think the squad is fantastic. I just don't think Germany will be able to compete with them. Look, they're going to compete, but I just fancy France to win it. Not
with Timo Werner up front, right?
Well, I did tip him to score more than 3 goals, but hopefully he'll do it in the other games.
But Rory, what do you make of it? I mean, France here 7-4. That actually looks like a pretty tasty bet for me.
Yeah, I think that's really good value because I think that Germany are going to struggle this tournament. I really do. I don't think that
I feel like they're in a bit of a transition stage. I think.
Yeah, I do as well.
I think
they're going to struggle. I think it's fairly. I think the reason that people are backing Germany, and look, I have a lot of time for the history of football. Like everything that's happened previously teaches us about what's going to happen at the moment. But I think a lot of the love and support that Germany are getting is due to what they've done previously. This squad is on their standard very average.
I agree with that.
Yeah, no, actually, it's our tipster in the A there again, who is going for France to win. He just sees that as the value bet. So, I mean, you've got the community on your side. You got Wayne on your side as well. So, pack France is probably our best advice. Now, moving on, we're going to look at some of our bold predictions for the tournament. Now, Wayne, you picked out something actually in the game involving Ukraine and the Netherlands. Can you just talk to us about that?
Ukraine, they're decent. Did they lose? I don't think they lost the game qualifying, and topped a group with Portugal in it. Holland, they don't have I think they don't have Van Dijk in. So yeah, I just fancy an upset. The game's in Amsterdam, and I just fancy an upset. I think Ukraine are a decent team. They've got a bit of creativity. They're hard working. So for me, they're a dangerous team.
Fair enough. And over to Rory. Your bold prediction involves the home nations.
Yes, I think that they are all going to win their opening game. I think that the weirdly, the one with the most jeopardy is England. I think Scotland definitely have a win in them. I think Wales need a win in this fixture so desperately that they'll probably get it. So it's up to England to do the business for the home nations. And again, we need it for kind of different reasons. We don't need it for the table. We need it for the belief. So I think that all home nations are going to start the campaign with 3 points.
Great shout. And for me, I'm actually going for something that, on the face of it, it looks like a pretty simple bet. I mean, that there will be no 0-0s in the opening round of 12 fixtures. Now, 8% of opening round games have been 0-0 since Euro 96. I mean, and we've talked a little bit about how some teams might be under pressure. It's going to be a bit cagey in those opening games, but I think there will be goals across the board, and you can get that at 2-1 with Bet365. Now, that actually wraps us up for our time with Wayne today. So, Wayne, I just want to again thank you for your time, and we'll see you next time here on the big stage.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Cheers, Wayne. Ta-da.
Cheers, Wayne. And we're going to move on to our accumulator bet of the round. So here in the accumulator section, I just want to wrap up some of the best predictions that our experts have given, as well as my own, as well as our betting expert tipsters. So here we are looking at Turkey draw or win versus Italy. A bit different to what our guys are actually expecting in the studio. Wales to beat Switzerland. Both England and Croatia to score. Again, that goes against my prediction of England to win 0. Scotland and Czech Republic to draw. That looks like a pretty secure bet. Spain -1.25 and France to beat Germany. Now, this is all coming from tipsters with proven track records on Betting Expert. They are the experts at finding those value bets and generating profit long term. So 350-1 does look pretty tasty. And if you also take our best bets from our guests as well here on the show, you can get 16-1 with Bet365 for England to win by 1, for Denmark -1, and for Italy to win 0. So that's some of our best accumulator bets for the round. But Rory's got a topic he wants to get a little bit off his chest. So let's go over to Rory's rant. So Rory, you did actually touch on it a little bit previously in the show, but James Ward-Prowse, take it over to you, mate.
Well, it needs to be discussed, doesn't it? It needs to be highlighted because this is a grave error from Gareth Southgate. There is no reason to take Ben White. Ben White will contribute nothing that other people cannot contribute. James Ward-Prowse, conversely, can do so many things that none of the other options in that midfield can do. And while we have a brilliant midfield, it's fairly inexperienced. Jordan Henderson isn't fit. You know, we saw him playing the other day. It didn't work. So basically, all of these midfielders are very inexperienced. James Ward-Prowse hasn't missed a match for 2 years. He can contribute massively. He can do something that none of the others do. He's a perfect box-to-box midfielder. And, you know, the elephant in the room that I haven't even mentioned, the delivery. You've then got Jack Grealish in the team. You've got to put those two on the same pitch. It's so obvious. It feels almost like a cheat code to me. And I really worry that this mistake, and I do believe it is a mistake, and I'm therefore labelling it as such, could be so costly. If you don't even want to mention James Ward-Prowse, how is Ben White the option? I'm actually furious about it, Joe, but I need to just stick to my my point that I made a couple of weeks ago, which was unilateral support for Gareth Southgate. But he's trying me. He's making it very tough.
And also, last point as well, maybe we didn't touch it on the show, but how to deal with disappointment as an England fan? I mean, we're getting used to it, right? Since Euro 96.
Drink. That would be my advice. That would be my tip for the top.
Responsibly, of course.
But look, Always. But look, we have very little option, but it's something that we're well versed in, isn't it? We know how to lose. But I also think that it's important to note that we can succeed in this World Cup without winning the tournament. Football coming home, it isn't simply bringing the trophy home. Football can come home in a different way. Football came home in 2018. They did us proud. The country felt unified. It was a wonderful tournament, and we held our heads up high. Similar Italia 90, similar Euro 96. As long as they do that, we keep our chin up. What we can't have is a repeat of Brazil and France.
I mean, especially after the year we've had as well, right? So let's get that positive ending for your rant. That's a really good way to sum it up. Let's get behind England if you're supporting them, of course, and let's have a great summer. But yeah, for now, Rory, thanks a lot for this episode. We'll be back soon. Chat to you again.
An honour. Cheers, lads. Ta-da.
Cheers. And we're going to round off with the community section here on the big stage. Now, the community section is where we're going to be talking about your best bets, some of your betting stories, how you've been getting on during the Euros. But I just want to give another shout out to our Tipster competition, where you can win a share of €5,000 during Euro 2020. So if you think you can do better than our tipsters, you can do better than Wayne Bridge, you can do better than Rory Jennings, then come and prove it on bettingexpert.com. All you have to do is sign up for a free account and then start submitting your tips on the Euro 2020 games. And basically every tip will count towards the competition. Next week, I'll be back with the leaderboard after the first round of games. So potentially we'll be able to see your name up in lights at the top of those standings. But for now, if you do place a bet, as always, we do ask that you gamble responsibly. Thanks for watching this episode of The Big Stage.